Greetings and welcome to this talk on the Internet of Things, threats, risks, and how to secure the IoT. Among the things that we're going to be talking about today are, in the introduction, the definition, what is the Internet of Things? We'll also talk about the history and applications based on when the IoT began, the Internet of Things began, where it is today, and some of the impact it's had on the human race and the world as a whole. Third thing we will be discussing today are risks and threats, security issues that come with being embedded in the network of the IoT. And lastly, we will talk about how we can secure the Internet of Things and how to plan for the future. Well, what is it? What is the Internet of Things? A definition offered to us by the International Telecommunication Union (ITU) and the Internet of Things European Research Centre (IERC) states the official definition as it being a dynamic global network infrastructure with self-configuring capabilities based on standard and interoperable communication protocols where physical and virtual things have identities, physical attributes, and virtual personalities. They use intelligent interfaces and are seamlessly integrated into the information network. So this is pretty wordy, but in a nutshell, what this means is any device that can be connected to the internet, any device that has a chip in it and a unique ID such as an IP address is part of the network included in the IoT. These devices are things that connect not only to the internet but also to each other to communicate, to ask for data, to pass data, to download data, and offer information that can be accessed by other devices or can be accessed by another human being someplace remotely. So let's talk about the history and some of the applications of the Internet of Things. Fast forward 17 years after the group of four students in New York, there was a gentleman by the name Kevin Ashton, who was a supply chain manager for Procter and Gamble. He would go from store to store trying to figure out merchandise, what needed to be replenished, what needed more to be ordered more of, so on and so forth. So during one of his trips at a store, he realized that there's a particular shade of lipstick that was never on the shelves. Not just at this one store, but every store he got into. And this piqued his interest. He began inquiring from the store managers, trying to find out if they knew why that particular shade was always off the shelf. None of the managers really knew had a valid reason, which frustrated Kevin, and being the inquisitive, innovative mind that he was, he knew that there had to be more to it. So he began to give talks and do a little bit more research on why that lipstick was always missing. And while he was trying to come up with a reason and explanation, it dawned on him that there is a technology that, at the time rather, that he could maybe use to figure out exactly why this lipstick was always off the shelf. So this is a time when RFID was coming mainstream in the US. And also it's a time when most companies had adopted the UPC barcode system. So the infrastructure to read the RFID was there. And he took this idea to various campuses in the US trying to sell his idea, but no one really believed him. But sooner rather than later, he got one professor at the MIT to listen to his idea, and he invited him back to his office, and they began to work together at the Auto ID Research Lab in the MIT. Why here is when they discovered and tested the idea of embedding chips inside of tiny little objects like a lipstick, and that enabled them to tell the location, little attributes about the lipstick, the temperature of it, just so to speak. And they could track it from the factory to the various distribution centers into the stores, and they could tell the exact moment when the lipstick, so to speak, would leave the store. So this is success. In fact, Kevin Ashton is credited as being the godfather of the Internet of Things. Um, and he's the one who coined the term IoT, Internet of Things. Today, the IoT again is mainstream. We're way past the research phases, and we are now into heavy adoption. Everywhere, it is everywhere. It is here, it is not going anywhere. So in 2011, the number of internet connected devices surpassed the number of human beings on Earth. And the number of these devices is projected to grow exponentially to about 26 to 50 billion connected devices by 2020. So just to put that in perspective, for every internet connected PC or handset, there will be about 5 to 10 other devices with native internet connectivity sold along with it. The Internet of Things has had some far-reaching implications, and it's been adopted by basically every industry in the entire universe. So, for instance, in retail, the IoT is used in the point of sales terminals, in vending machines. It's used to change signs and change signage. It is in the healthcare industry. It's used for inpatient monitoring, implants and pumps. In buildings, it's monitors the HVAC, cooling, heating and cooling systems. It's security for camera, closed circuit television cameras. It's basically everywhere. Anything that can be connected to the internet using the on and off switch, or connected to another device in the network is part of the IoT. So it's basically everything. Well, with that, all the advantages of being able to read data, massive amounts of data coming in from all these devices about human beings, about buildings, about the environment, about the sea, about the ocean. There are infinitely many risks and threats that come with disadvantages. Anything that's connected to the internet is subject to being hacked, and the IoT just continually leaves us open to attack. Case in point, in 2016, the DIN network. DIN is a company that controls much of the internet's naming infrastructure. So DIN suffered the greatest known cyber attack. In this attack, the perpetrators used a DDoS type of attack, which stands for Distributed Denial of Service, in which a network of computers infected with special malware, the malware is known as botnet. They are coordinated in bombarding a server with traffic until it collapses under the strain. So, as we had known before the 2016 attack, all botnets were really basically computers, but this 2016 particular attack changed the game because they used something called the Mirai botnet, and the Mirai botnet is made up of nothing but IoT devices. So it's estimated about 50 to 100,000, about 50,000 to 100,000 of these devices were exploited in this attack. And during the attack, 70 of the world's biggest companies were affected. Their websites were brought down. Companies like CNN, Amazon, BBC, Swedish government, Walgreens, GitHub, just to name a few. And combined, they lost a total of $110 million. So there are various types of attacks. There are physical cyber attacks resulting from breaches, physically breaking into a thing using like a thumb drive or a jump drive to download malware. There are software attacks where malware is installed into a network program, which sends a virus and corrupts and steals data. There are cyber attacks, which is the man-in-the-middle attack, which infiltrates a network and steals information. Then there are encryption attacks that strike algorithms within the devices. And then lastly, how do we secure the IoT? Pretty simple. Write encrypted software that cannot be easily broken into. Improve access control, asking for username and password. Managing uptime for any device, not having it connected to the internet at the entire time is extremely helpful. And training and creating awareness. So, in conclusion, the IoT is a network of all devices and systems connected through an internet. It's used in all industries. It's least secure currently in its current state, and it's projected to grow to about 20 to 50 billion devices by 2020. And securing the IoT is feasible and possible, but it is no easy feat. Thank you so much for listening.